wired. We're back. It's been a year. No more, 2 years, right? Theo did Waiver Wired last year. Anyone remember that? Theo did Waiver Wired. It was one of the things that I was, disappointed about last year. I knew I had to make a decision about what shows I was going to do. And I was like, well, and then Theo's like, I'm really good at the Waiver Wire. And I'm like, that's true. Theo is awesome at the Waiver Wire. So I had Theo do the Waiver Wire show. Problem is, I'm also pretty good at the Waiver Wire, and I love doing the Waiver Wired show. This is my favorite show. I love air guitaring with my mouth. It's fun. And I love talking about all these guys we're picking up. I love going deeper than other shows so that you can know who to pick up at the FFPC, because we love the FFPC and tight end premium. I post all my FAAB guidance, the precise percentage of your budget that you should be bidding on these players on Patreon. Patreon.com/Podfather. Go there, check it out, and you can see the exact precise bidding that I am doing, that I recommend on all the players we're going to talk about today and many more. We are going to talk about running backs. We're going to talk about wide receivers. Stick around at the end. We're going to give you a couple quarterback stashes and streams. One stream, one stash, right? We don't talk a lot about quarterback on this show. This is mostly a running back show, some receivers, a few tight ends, more tight ends this week than normal. And, we talk a little bit of quarterback at the very end, so stick around for that. It's fun. We're live. We have the chat going. I'll take some questions as we go. Again, I'm fired up. It's obvious I'm fired up. The show gets me fired up. This was one of the things that made me happy thinking about this season, what we're doing. It's like, ooh, I think I can do Waiver Wire. I think this means I can do Waiver Wire. This is exciting. And I hope you like the Top 10 Takeaway show with Pete Nova. I chose Pete specifically because I think he's very good at the takeaways. He studies the games and very closely. He puts in an incredible amount of time researching throughout the day on Sunday, then works with our data team on Monday morning. And I helped him produce that show. I was there behind the scenes with him, and I think it went well, and I hope you agree. But this is my show now. It's my show now, right? This is my show, Theo. I'm taking it back. I'm the captain now. It's the line from Captain Phillips. Is that a line from Captain Phillips? Let me know in the chat. I think that's a line from Captain Phillips. Am I the captain now? Yes, I am. So, without any delay, who is the top running back to pick up this week? Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson. Clearly, if they're available, you want to grab them. The problem is they're at least 50% owned, which means in the leagues, the people that are tuning into this show, if you like advanced stats and metrics on Player Profiler, typically you've been playing fantasy for a while and you're trying to become the best of the best. And if you get to that point, you're probably not in leagues where 50% of Yahoo drafters already have the player. That's not typical, but it's possible. So I will say, if Judkins is available, 30%. If Sampson is available, 20%. And by the way, with Sampson, we got to talk about Sampson. Sampson is a day 3 pick that had a huge role, especially in the passing game in week 1. That is not normal. Ask Caleb Johnson, and he's a day 2 pick. What typically happens in the NFL. But this is such an incredible evolution of the sport where, last week I had the assumption that, hey, day 3 picks are not going to get much action. Well, the Browns said not so fast, and the Commanders said not so fast. They deactivated Chris Rodriguez, and they were like, ooh, this means Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt is going to get run, baby. And then the Browns said, you know what? Jerome Ford was efficient last year, and he's the incumbent, but we're moving on already to Dylan Sampson, which was incredible news. These are guys that we were drafting aggressively. If you're paying attention to who I was mock drafting on the Fast Draft app, in the Rabbit specifically, we have a Discord. just search on Discord for the Fast Draft Discord, join, and I was posting a lot of mocks, always with either Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt or Dylan Sampson. As soon as we got into the double-digit rounds, those were my two favorite targets, because in the full season perspective, they were incredible picks with a lot of upside. Week 1, though, I was fully prepared for them to have Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as a game day inactive, for the bell cow role in Week 1 to go to Jerome Ford, but that's not what happened. And that is an incredible evolution of the NFL. We have to change our assumptions moving forward, and no longer just because a guy was a day 3 pick is he going to get ramped up slowly. One time we saw it with Elijah Mitchell, was just thrust into the starting role Week 1 for San Francisco. It was so jarring and weird. But now it's becoming much more common. And so for future Week 1s, we'll have to make sure that we are more aggressively playing our rookies, especially the day 3 rookies. But an exciting rookie from last year that wasn't used much was used a lot more this week, and he's the guy that I'm targeting, and that's Trey Benson. Trey Benson is not available in deeper leagues. He's not available at the FFPC. Everyone has already stashed him. I get it. But in shallow leagues, I would put 10% down on Trey Benson. Absolutely. Now, in shallow leagues, you don't want to put too much of your Week 1 bankroll down on a player who isn't a proper starter heading into the next week. The nice thing about shallow leagues is you can hold your money back and you can wait and spend up big on the next handcuff that gets elevated that's on the waiver wire. We didn't have one this week. There were no big running back injuries, which is another great development, very encouraging development. Think of how few injuries where key players were lost. Even a Xavier Worthy, it comes back, he's actually day-to-day. Now, we'll get to him later. He's not actually day-to-day. We'll explain. I'll explain why I'm so high on Hollywood Brown later. So now, because there's no running back injuries, which is incredible, we're looking for who is an established one-for-one handcuff, knowing that they're going to be available without having to spend up big, but we can get them stashed now. Trey Benson would be that guy. I'd stash him aggressively because he was very involved in the passing game, even though he didn't get targets. He was on the field a lot, and then he broke the long 50-yard run, showed off his explosiveness. It was very exciting. And so that's my number one, realistic waiver claim. Still shallow leagues, though. Again, no one in deep leagues thinks Trey Benson is available. That's not a thing. But certainly in shallow leagues, he should be available. So there he is. Number 2. Ooh, who is number 2? Number two. DJ Giddens. Oh, did you think I was going to say DJ Giddens? Did you? Because DJ Giddens established himself as the one-for-one handcuff behind Jonathan Taylor. I know there was garbage time, but even before it was officially garbage time, DJ Giddens was getting touches. DJ Giddens was getting touches inside the red zone. And this is great to see. So in deeper leagues, he's available. This is the type of player we're looking for, because in deeper leagues, Giddens is available and he's much more under the radar than Trey Benson, but he is still a one-for-one handcuff. So in the deep leagues, he's the first guy I'm keyword searching and I'm looking for. Even in shallow leagues, I would put a little 1%. Just you don't have to probably pay up at all for him. You might just pass through waivers in shallow leagues, scoop him, stash him in all leagues. DJ Giddens. Then there's Kenny Gainwell. Kenneth Gainwell was on the field a lot. He had a valuable satellite back role. This was a high-scoring game, though, and they are going to start ramping up Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson's a better player than Kenny Gainwell. I don't know if Jalen Warren's better than Kenny Gainwell. I think that's up for dispute. But given that he was on the field a lot in deep leagues, I could see putting a little 1% bid, but nothing substantial at all because Caleb Johnson's coming. And really, that's about it. There's really not a lot at the running back position to get excited about. DJ Giddens is the one guy we're circling. And then there's a bunch of other handcuffs you just need to watch out. What you want to do this week is mostly just see if you can get Giddens and stash him, and then see who people drop. That's the thing. Will anyone drop Tyler Algier? He had a major role and just didn't score fantasy points. But, I mean, in a game that was back and forth, same number of carries as Bijan Robinson, and he is on one of these rare one-for-one handcuffs that you just absolutely need to have on your bench. The vast majority of your bench players in managed leagues need to be running backs, if not all of them. Like, if you had all running backs on your bench, I wouldn't even hate that. It just depends on the format. Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon is a complete running back. This is a Doak Walker Award winner just a couple of years ago, and then had a lot of injuries on the offensive line in college. He himself was nicked up in his final year, and things just didn't work out. But he is clearly a sort of a day 2 pick level talent. He is a Caleb Johnson level talent, Ollie Gordon. And he's just waiting in the wings. And we know that Devon Achane is not going to be able to stay healthy given his size and the usage. It's not sustainable. So Ollie Gordon and Tyler Algier, two of my favorite running backs, to just monitor the waiver wire, see if they get dropped, scoop them immediately. Rico Dowdle also could very well get dropped, but he is, again, a rare one-for-one handcuff. There's not that many of these one-for-one handcuffs around the league, because you might say, oh, what about Ray Davis? Ray Davis could get dropped. Yeah, but Ray Davis is in a one-for-one handcuff. If something happens to James Cook, Ty Johnson is going to be the satellite back and get all the work in the 2-minute drill. So Ray Davis doesn't even, I would rather have Rico Dowdle. I would rather have Ollie Gordon. I would rather have Tyler Algier than a Ray Davis or a Kendre Miller. I mean, Devin Neal had a role. That's cool. Like, that's something to monitor. That Devin Neal had a role. The fact that Kendre Miller was, sorry. I mean, what are you going to do? This is the Saints. It was the Saints, and we had Devin Neal getting at least a couple touches. So for those reasons, in a game that was competitive. So for those reasons, Kendre Miller's at the bottom of my list at the running back position. But the fact that we're even saying the words Kendre Miller, the fact that this is even coming up, is just evidence that this was a barren landscape on the waiver wire at running back. But this is always the focus. Every week, it's like, let's figure out our running backs that we're going to be picking up. That's how we're going to be, cultivating our bench. And then receivers, if there are needs at receiver, if you have one bench receiver and you want to rotate that guy in through, fine, right? Swap him out. Hollywood Brown is a guy that I would aggressively pursue. Now, the beauty is that Xavier Worthy is now day to day, but that really means week to week in the NFL. Day to day means week to week. We know that. And, we're talking about a top 3 receiver, even when Rashee Rice is healthy, even when Xavier Worthy is healthy. And we don't know when that's going to be. We don't know if that shoulder injury is going to be chronic for the rest of the year. There's a lot of unknowns. The one known that we have was that the target leader and the go-to receiver for Patrick Mahomes in week 1 and now heading into week 2 is Hollywood Brown, who is an established first-round pick, who's had 1,000-yard seasons. This is a player that we should all get excited about. Like, permission, right? We almost never, ever spend more than 10% of a FAAB budget on a wide receiver, just because they're fleeting. But this is like the one situation where, no, this is actually a good team. This is a featured player. This is a first round pick. This is all these things. It's once a year you break the glass and you say, okay, we're going to spend up on a wide receiver this week. This happens to be the week. So odds are for the rest of the year, we won't be going over 10% of our FAAB budget on any given wide receiver. Hollywood Brown, and that's it. But I have 5 more. 5 more receivers that I like to pick up on the waiver wire, and we'll get into it after this. I know you're sad draft season is over, but just because the NFL season starts doesn't mean the drafting stops. Because Fast Draft has the Flex 6 Frenzy. You're drafting 6 guys for the Sunday slate against 9 other competitors. It's fast, it's furious, it's fun, and as with everything on Fast Draft, there are no salaries. Woo! So go to draftfaster.com, get the app, use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. Now let's go start drafting faster. The promo code is FAST. The promo code is FAST to get a $50 deposit match on Fast Draft, and you just draft 6 guys. There's 10 teams. You draft 6 guys. These drafts are happening every day, all day. And then we also have the Quick Slam, where you can just pick any 6 guys and put them in booster spots for this week. So we've doubled the prize pools from week 1 to week 2. All the tournaments on Fast Draft, all the DFS tournaments filled basically twice as fast as expected based on last year. So now we're like, okay, I guess because there's so many new users on the platform, we need to crank up the prize pools. And as more people play and as these contests continue to fill, we'll just continue to ratchet up the prize pool. So we went from 1,000 to 2,000 with the Frenzy from week 1 to week 2. We went from 2,500 to 5,000 with the Super Slam. And we're just going to keep escalating these prize pools as you all keep playing. And we're close to 10,000 users now on the platform. I pinch myself thinking about how successful Fast Draft has been. And it's a point of pride for everybody here. It's just very cool. Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman is a complete and total smash. In shallow leagues, he's very much available. He's even available in some deeper leagues. So this is why Cedric Tillman's probably the one guy that we should be talking about the most, because he averaged close to 20 PPR fantasy points per game in his last 5 games. And I know that he wasn't the receiving yards leader. That was actually Jerry Jeudy. But you watch that game, and let's be honest, Jerry Jeudy was pathetic. Jerry Jeudy did not look impressive. Jerry Jeudy had a critical play and a pass that was right on his hip, and he just dropped it on the ground. So they were both guilty of some drops in that game. That game could have gone either way. That was a really good game, actually, for a low-scoring contest, the Ohio grudge match. But Cedric Tillman is best comparable to Nico Collins. Very close comp, and he's commanding targets. He's been efficient. He's putting up fantasy points. I mean, what else do you want? So that is like your priority number 2 this week on the waiver wire is Cedric Tillman. And then specifically when we talk about the FAAB budget, in deep leagues, I would put 10%. Like that's my normal max. I would put 10% on Cedric Tillman. Shallow leagues, wide receivers, there's a lot of availability, so I wouldn't go more than 2%. In shallow leagues, I want all my money, basically, a war chest to be set aside for when there's a big running back injury and his backup is still on the waiver wire. That happens all the time in shallow leagues, and you need to hold your money back in shallow leagues, whereas in deep leagues, all of the handcuff backs are pretty much rostered. And that means you can just start spending up earlier in deep leagues and get the production, because every week that goes by, there's less value that these players can give you because there's fewer weeks that they can play and put up fantasy points. Bidding up a player like Cedric Tillman after week 1 will maximize the total lifetime fantasy points he'll give you in Dynasty and the total fantasy points that he will accrue in 2025. So for that reason, in shallow leagues, don't do it. Don't go crazy, right? Ease up. Deep leagues, though, get him. Get Cedric Tillman. He's a guy you can start regularly. We're going to see a lot of volume in the passing game. We saw it already. Like that was a relatively close game. The Browns were in that game throughout, and yet they were just throwing. Like the beauty of what happened with that game script was we got to see what the de facto default game plan is going to be in Cleveland, and it's going to be throw, and that means Cedric Tillman, and we'll talk about Harold Fannin Jr. later. Number 3 is Kayshon Boutte. You can't argue with targets and routes. He's a big-time prospect pedigree. Like, he was a 5-star recruit at LSU. Turns out not that athletic, and so I think that's the reason why he fell to round 6 in the NFL draft. 2nd percentile burst score, 33rd percentile agility score. He is this is the quintessential possession receiver in the NFL. A low upside play, but going to get you 8 targets, could get you 70 yards, the occasional touchdown. This is a player that's worth rostering. And is he worth rostering in shallow leagues? Probably not. This is not a guy I would spend a single cent on in shallow leagues. Like it's like in shallow leagues, it's Brown and Tillman, and then that's it. That's it. That's it. Right? Now, in shallow leagues, you also, another reason why you don't want to spend up in shallow leagues is because good receivers get dropped in shallow leagues. So Jaden Higgins, Marvin Mims, Rashad Bateman, they can be dropped in shallow leagues. You can just scoop them for nothing. All the more reason to hold your FAAB back and allocate it to future big Godfather bids on soon-to-be starting running backs. So 5%-ish, right, on Kayshon Boutte. That's in deep leagues. In deep leagues only. Shallow leagues, ignore. And then there's Quentin Johnston. You're not going to get Quentin Johnston. Don't bid on him. Or bid a little bit. I put the exact amount up there on Patreon, but don't point chase. That's the bottom line. He was number 3 among wide receivers on his own team in target share in week 1. He just happened to get a bunch of scores. He's clearly the 3rd best everything at wide receiver, and yet they don't have a tight end of consequence there, which is interesting. And they have a starting rookie running back who's not going to be commanding a huge target share out of the backfield. Najee Harris not going to command a huge target share. So I get it. The receiver is going to hog the targets, and that's a good offense. I understand that. Week in, week out, you're not going to see the type of pass volume that we saw in that shootout against Kansas City. They had to throw to be competitive in that game. It just made sense. Kansas City also was giving up the fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs last year. So for a bunch of reasons, things just align. The moon and the stars align for Quentin Johnston. And my advice is do not waste funds, especially in shallow leagues, my God, on Quentin Johnston. Do not do it. I would rather put just a little feeler bid out there in deep leagues on a Calvin Austin. Calvin Austin's actually faster than Quentin Johnston. He has a more established featured role in that offense. And that deep speed, and suddenly Pittsburgh's throwing a lot with Aaron Rodgers. Calvin Austin will likely outproduce Quentin Johnston this season. So why am I bidding up on Quentin Johnston, chasing week 1 points, when I can just put a little feeler on Calvin Austin? And then you go even deeper than that, because he was overshadowed by a Keon Coleman. You know, Josh Palmer had close to 10 targets. Josh Palmer was very involved. And there's going to be a lot of shootouts in Buffalo. Look at that schedule. They have a bunch of Baltimore-esque teams on that schedule. They're going to be throwing a lot. And Josh Palmer is going to be involved. And Josh Palmer is basically the discount Quentin Johnston. Right? If he had got the touchdowns, it would have been a similar situation. But he didn't get the touchdowns. Quentin Johnston did. They're both technically the number 3 receivers. It's just that the Bills will be putting up more points, more passing yards, And so Josh Palmer is a much better value. He's the guy you can just, again, put a little feeler bid out there in deep leagues and secure him. A couple other guys to scoop for nothing in deep leagues if they're available. Deontay Thornton Jr., he's going to be involved this year. That guy's a specimen. So I would want to get him. And then Jalen Coker, before long, Jalen Coker is going to get activated, even though that offense was not what I'd hoped it would be. I had high hopes for this offense, that this could be one of those fun garbage time offenses, and it wasn't. I mean, Hubbard enjoyed the garbage time, but Bryce Young and company did not. I still think that Bryce Young is a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL, but now we're on the clock sort of watching Bryce Young. Will he finally establish himself in the league, as most first overall picks do? Time will tell. At tight end, Juwan Johnson, amazing, right? 30% is what I would go in tight end premium leagues. I would just push the chips in if he's somehow available. He probably is not in your tight end premium leagues, but I would go in hard on Juwan Johnson. And even in deep leagues, though, just traditional deep leagues, not tight end premium, I would bid up, same as I would bid on Cedric Tillman. Same bid, right? Definitely a top priority. I like to max out 10% on tight ends and wide receivers, unless it's this great exception like a Hollywood Brown. But even in shallow leagues, like Juwan Johnson had incredible usage in week 1. There's no tight end competition in New Orleans, so I think I would even go to 5% in shallow leagues. There's plenty of shallow leagues that could use teams that could use Juwan Johnson. Harold Fannin, maybe half of what you're bidding on Juwan Johnson. Harold Fannin is still a auxiliary option in this offense that they're just going to throw so much, and he's so good. He was one of the best tight ends in college football history, and now he's had the most receptions in week 1 for a tight end as a rookie in NFL history. He's just really, really good at football. Athleticism aside, he's really good at football. That's what matters. So he's a target in tight end premium, a big-time target in tight end premium. He's a guy I'm targeting even in just non-tight end premium deep leagues. I want him. Again, about half of what I would bid on Juwan Johnson. And then in shallow leagues, he's even worth a stash in shallow leagues. He's usable. There aren't many situations in shallow leagues where you'd be excited about Harold Fannin, but, I mean, there's upside there. But for most of us, we're watching Harold Fannin and we're happy for him. But most of us have a lot of David Njoku, so this is one of those where it's like, wish you all the best, but let's get David Njoku more involved next week, please. That's sort of the attitude. Brenton Strange was very involved. He had that tight end 1 role. He was vultured for a touchdown by Hunter Long. I was watching that, and I thought it was him catching it. I was very excited because I have a lot of Brenton Strange, and then no. But, yeah, he's big, athletic, had the right role. There's consolidated targets there. There's not really a wide receiver 3 anyone cares much about. So Brenton Strange is a nice guy. I think that's another feeler that you would put in deep leagues on Brenton Strange if he's available. I think he's a great option. So is Noah Fant. I think Noah Fant, I put whatever you're putting on Strange, I put like half of that FAAB bid amount down on Noah Fant. Why? He out-targeted Mike Gesicki, and this is the offense. I know week 1 was disappointing for the Bengals, but this is the offense. And so if you're telling me you're going to be the main option at tight end in the Bengals offense, I'm very interested, especially in tight end premium. I mean, if you're in a deep tight end premium league and Noah Fant's available, I mean, we're talking, you could conceivably bid up to like 20% and it wouldn't even be crazy. But you would definitely just put a little feeler down on him if it's not tight end premium. But then there's a bunch of tight ends, though. The reason why I wouldn't bid it too aggressively in the non-tight end premium leagues is because there's a bunch of tight ends that didn't do anything. Chigakonkwo, Jatavian Sanders, Isaiah Likely didn't play. Darren Waller didn't play. Michael Mayer is very interesting. Michael Mayer has a high pedigree. He commanded some targets. Regardless of whether Brock Bowers is out there, Michael Mayer is out there as well. And so Michael Mayer is interesting in deep leagues, especially tight end premium. I think he's mostly rostered regardless. But it doesn't make a lot of sense to really bid aggressively on Strange or Fant or even Fannin if you think that Sanders or Okonkwo will get dropped. And then finally at quarterback, we have a couple options. You have to stash Jackson Dart. If you're in one of these deeper leagues where people are carrying QB2s, please, for the love of God, stash Jackson Dart now before it's too late. Please do it. I'm begging you to do it. Do it, do it, do it. And in terms of streaming, it's pretty clear, right? I mean, we're streaming Geno Smith. This is a fun offense. This is an offense. I mean, look what Brock Bowers is doing. I mean, this is pretty exciting little Raiders offense that they're putting together here. And I talked about like Deontay Thornton. There's some fun pieces. Michael Mayer. I mean, think about all these Raiders we've already talked about today. And then they're at home against the Chargers Monday Night Football, and that game total is 47. So you see the game total of 47. You know they're going to have to throw to be competitive in that game. It could shoot out, and it's a home game. So for all those reasons, I really like Geno Smith this week. This is the week to play Geno Smith. I mean, if he is available for streaming, he's my guy. And that's Waiver Wired. From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to playerprofiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, data analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.